So I saw the FNAF movie. It's in the thumbnail, it's in the title. This video has spoilers. I am saying it now. There are full spoilers. Do not watch this before you watch the movie. Spoils. There are spoilers. This will spoil things. I was lucky enough to see the movie before it officially came out here in the United States, so I've had a couple hours to mull things over. My general impressions are that I actually very much like the movie. I saw it with a group of about 10 people, all with various different ages. There's like ages 19 to 30. People with different experiences with the franchise, people with very different movie tastes, and everybody I saw it with liked it. There were a couple of things to me that I thought the movie had to do to be successful. First of all, I thought Mike had to be William's son, otherwise it would be wasting a lot of potential. I thought it would be okay if instead they made Vanessa William's daughter, but only if she was a very tragic character. And I'm not sure they actually pulled off what the movie ended up doing. It depends, maybe we'll get a sequel, it'll all work out. One of the things that I really did like about the movie, especially going in as a fan, is that I was in legitimate suspense as to whether or not the character of Abby would die. If you're watching it just as a typical PG-13 horror movie and the goal of the movie, the characters, is to save this little girl from the monsters, you know they're gonna save her. But since she clearly dies and is Elizabeth and gets babied, I'm sitting there like, movie's telling me that this girl's gonna be fine, but I know she won't be. Like, literally, when Chica is trying to put her into the baby Springlock suit, I'm like, are they really about to kill this little girl on screen in a very not that gory movie? So again, I'm not really sure how I like what they ended up doing. It depends on if there's going to be a movie 2 and a movie 3 and what they're going to end up doing with the baby character. There's been reports for a little while that Markiplier was not going to be in the movie, and MatPat also said he was not going to be in the movie. One of them is a liar. Earlier in the movie, when Mike is in the mall, there's a ice cream stand he's at, and it has a little Chica's Magic rainbow symbol on it. And so I'm thinking like, oh, they're just going to use some iconography from the games just randomly all over the place in the movie. Like, Chica's Magic rainbow is associated with Freddy's in the game universe, but I guess not in the movie universe. Completely unrelated ice cream shop. So when it cuts to the exterior of the restaurant scene and it says Sparky's, I'm sitting there like, oh my god, I know Sparky's. Sparky is one of the first, like, fan-made hoax characters that they said that there was going to be a dog in FNAF 1 named Sparky. I get it, and I'm literally not through the emotional aspect of being like, oh my god, it's Sparky's, I recognize that. I'm going to lean over to the person next to me and explain why I was just laughing about a sign that says Sparky's in an establishing shot in a restaurant. And then MatPat walked on screen. I did not see it with a full theater. I saw it again with like 10 people in a movie theater, and, you know, MatPat got some reactions. So I went quickly from the Sparky's thing to the, oh my god, that's MatPat, to the zoom in on Matt's face with him saying, well, that's just a theory. And I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. I haven't even been able to, like, emotionally connect with what is happening yet. Loved it. I legitimately thought it was a phenomenal way to do that in the movie. Okay, so I liked it. It wasn't that scary. I thought that I'm gonna say the violence, the gore, the bloody handprint going down the window, the girl literally get bitten in half. Like, there was some violence and gore, but it wasn't really scary. Literally, the only thing in the movie that got any sort of reaction out of anybody I was with is when the Foxy kid turns around and there's, like, oil coming out of his eyes. But that's, like, the only thing. There was no other jump scare in the movie that anyone reacted to. So not as scary as I was expecting, but definitely a good movie. I liked it. Here's where this video turns into a very pessimistic outlook. And that's because, as you saw in the title of this video, I think this movie is going to do some serious harm to speculation, lore, theories in the community. I think a lot of people are going to take things that are depicted in this movie as, like, in-game fact, or at the very least, they're going to connect it the same way that they do with the books and try to be like, oh my god, this means this. So, for example, obviously, no one thinks the movie's canon. That's just not how it works. But in the movie, it explicitly states that Mike is 12 years old when Garrett gets taken away from him. So, does that mean that that's evidence we can use in the games to say that Foxy Bro is 12 during the events of FNAF 4? I don't know, but it also doesn't really matter. Foxy Bro being 12 versus my own personal thoughts that he's probably 14 doesn't change much. However, what does change things is that the baby animatronic is a Springlock suit. YouTuber FNAF recently had a theory where he explains that he thinks that the baby suit is a Springlock suit. He also thinks it's the Mimic, somehow. It's not a bad theory, it's just one of his takes where it's like, hey, here's some disparate elements, and then if you kind of put them together, you can form a narrative. It doesn't necessarily feel like it's what the game is saying, but it's obviously possible or plausible. And so the Springlock suit being baby in the movie is interesting. It gives credence to his theory, but I don't know if it's supposed to. I don't know if when Scott was writing that scene in the movie, he was like, oh yes, this is a great hint so that they finally realize that Baby is a Springlock suit. I don't know how seriously we're supposed to take stuff. On the topic of how seriously we're supposed to take stuff, Vanessa is William's daughter. One of the most popular and controversial theories is that Vanessa is somehow Elizabeth. This is definitely something that, like, MatPat puts forward. I think it was Cyrus Squawks who made a video that was like, oops, all Elizabeth. So is the fact that in the movie that Vanessa is William's daughter evidence that Vanessa from Security Breach is a reincarnation of Elizabeth, that she's a robot, that she's a normal person who William has mind-controlled into thinking they're Elizabeth? Do these two things line up? I don't know, but a lot of people are going to think that they do. I think a lot of people are going to be able to look past the fact that in the movie, Mike is not William's son. Clearly in the games, the line is, "Father, it's me, Michael. We know that Mike is William's son," and that Garrett is obviously a parallel to the crying child. I don't think anyone's going to look at the movie and say, oh, actually, this disproves that Foxy Bro, Mike Schmidt, and Mike Afton are the same person, because the movie says they're not. No one's going to think that. But that doesn't mean that people aren't going to think that because the movie explicitly says that William stuffed the bodies in the suits, that in the games that means William stuffed the bodies in the suits. There is actual conversation, theories, disagreements, controversy about whether or not William put the bodies in the suits or if the puppet did. In the movie, it is now said it is William. So does that solve the debate? Do we now have an answer in the games? I don't know. I think it's pretty weird to think that you're, like, picking and choosing which parts of the movie you think are going to back up your argument. Like, I can totally see FNAF coming out in a video and saying, hey, in the movie, Baby's a Springlock suit, so that's evidence to my theory. But I don't think anyone's really going to be satisfied or not whether or not William put the bodies in the suits or the puppet did, because the movie said William did. On Twitter, I gave my non-spoiler reaction to the movie, saying that I really liked it, it wasn't scary, it was kind of gory, they did the thing early on, which is the MatPat cameo, and that I was very angry in the first scene of the movie, because we see Mike lying in bed, and then the camera moves over, and we see on his nightstand is a book that's just called Dream Theory. And not only do I hate Dream Theory, but I just put out a 9-hour video talking about why I hate Dream Theory, and why I don't think it was ever canon, and why I don't think that anyone ever really should have taken it seriously, and I think Scott hates it. And then the movie opens with literally just a shot of the book. A shot of a book that just says Dream Theory. So what is this actually saying about Dream Theory? I do not know. Mike talks about how his idea, like the theory about dreams, is that everything you've ever experienced you remember, and so by dreaming about something, surrounding yourself with sounds and sights and thinking about it before you fall asleep, you can actually connect to your real memories within your dreams and relive them to discover novel information, which is obviously not what Dream Theory in relation to FNAF is. So while I think that exploring this might be interesting to try to figure out things like what FNAF 4 is actually about, especially if you take into account the Tales from the Pizzapleka book Didophobia, which came out after I made my 9-hour video, but obviously before today and before the movie came out. It talks about how this kid was actually run through these experiments that are very similar to what you see in FNAF 4. We know from the logbook that Mike definitely dreamed the events of FNAF 4 at some point, and now in the movie it's saying that real things that you actually experienced that maybe you repressed or that were so long ago you don't know the details, you can view through dreams. So is this just saying that FNAF 4, the gameplay, the night gameplay segment, is taking place, sometime in the future and is a dream, but that it also really happened? Or is it saying that Dream Theory, as MatPat named it, as he called it, saying that the first 3 games are dreams? Is he backing that up? I don't know. I do not know. I don't know what the movie means, and people can twist and skew it however they want to mean whatever they want. This video is not a lore video, it's not a theory video. I gave a short review of the movie, and now I'm just talking about problematic bits. Baby's a Springlock suit, Vanessa being William's daughter, Dream Theory. These are now going to be new arguments that are reignited by the fact that the movie decided to bring them up, and I don't know why. There's also an argument about when the movie takes place. A lot of people keep saying things like back in the 80s. So clearly, the MCI was in the 80s, but the movie is now not in the 80s. Technology and fashion-wise, it looks like the 90s, but I don't think you can hammer down and say it took place in 92 or 95. People debate about whether FNAF 1 took place in 1992 or 1993, and the Silver Eyes novel took place in 95. The movie has a lot more in common with the Silver Eyes than it does with the games. In particular, the idea that William has some sort of control over the animatronics. That comes directly from the Silver Eyes. He'd be able to control them in order to do his bidding towards the end of the 3rd book. And it was only after one of the characters was injected with Remnant and able to speak with the ghost children that he basically convinced them that William was their killer, which is obviously the climax of the movie. The animatronics are doing his bidding, although they also seem to have their own agency. Like, they want Abby as their friend, but also because William wants to kill her. And then this is solved by Abby drawing that he was the murderer and pinning it to the wall, so now, like, the ghosts can see it and understand what he did. Whereas in the games, you see that William doesn't really have control over them. He had to use, like, a projection of Shadow Freddy in order to lure them to be dismantled. So in the games, he clearly does not have this kind of control, whereas in the book and the movie, he does. The movie definitely hinted that William has some sort of, like, psychic mind control over Vanessa, like brainwashing type stuff, like the way that they have control over Vanessa in Security Breach. But one, it doesn't explain how that happened. Two, all it does is draw further parallels between Vanessa and Vanessa, which I don't like. And it also just didn't end up happening. Like, Vanessa literally told Mike that she would not be any use to him if they, like, confronted William together. And then she was of use to him. She, like, shot him. Yeah, she didn't go for the head, but, like, she clearly went out of her way to try to defeat him. He didn't, like, turn on her trigger word and then turn her against Mike. So I don't know what that line meant. I don't know what her real, like, motivation was. Is she evil? Is she being forced to do what William says? Did her seeing the true love and bond between Mike and Abby convince her to stop murdering people? Like, I'm not entirely sure what her character arc was. For the movie it's in, it was fine. But if they're going to go and do this trilogy that they have planned, they have to, like, explain that. When I watched the movie, we had bingo cards. I posted one of them on Twitter. And there was a lot of things on there that I thought would be, like, extremely obvious. Like, they will play the Toreador March. They will recreate the scene of Foxy running down the hallway from FNAF 1. There will be an establishing shot of some, like, car driving down the road or a house with a 90s pop song playing. And none of those things happened. But we did have a MatPat cameo and the phrase, "that's just a theory," which, like, that was not at the top of my list of predictions. So yeah, I really like the movie. I think that everyone who watches it is going to be impressed by it and enjoy it. Unless you're the reviewer from IGN who gave the movie a 4 out of 10 for too much plot. The website that got memed to death for reviewing Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire saying it has too much water is now saying that FNAF has too much plot. It's not just a schlocky, stupid, dumb horror movie with jump scares. There's actually, like, characters and stuff going on. Wow, this is terrible. They literally say that they don't think that the fans of the franchise are going to appreciate all the plot. So I don't think that they know what the fans of the franchise want in the slightest. But yeah, great movie. I'm probably not going to sit down and watch it again anytime soon, but I'm definitely going to, like, peek into theaters and try to watch all the highlights, and especially, like, the MatPat cameo and see how people are reacting to it. Because yeah, if a movie's really good, I'll probably see it a couple times. If I enjoy it, I always come back.